Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. I had a tab open where I was streaming this session, and so I watched it as on the broadcast window, and then it opened up, so it threw me off just a little bit. Hey, Sean Chandler here from Sean Chandler Talks About, and today we are talking about how to make engaging, desirable content on YouTube. And so basically throughout this, what I'm going to try and do is tell my story in about 10 minutes and then just walk you through the essentials of if you want to have a YouTube channel that's not just a hobby, that actually connects with people, that grows an audience and resonates with them, sparks something inside of them. You have to create content that's actually good. It's actually is something that people want to click on and stick around once they've clicked on it. So what we're going to try and do throughout this is just look at what that looks like. The quick version of my story before I'll give you a slightly more detailed version is that I started my YouTube channel in 2016, and 2.5 years later, I was able to go full-time, quit my day job, and for now, since February of 2019, year and a half now, I've been full-time on YouTube and had a strong enough plan that when Corona happened and movie theaters were shut down, I still had a sustainable plan for how I could keep going and coming up with ideas. And so I want to kind of give you just a talk through that just a little bit. And while I presented it here as, yeah, I started in 2016, and then a year and a half or 2 years later, I was able to go full time. That's not really what my story is. That's my exact story with Sean Chandler Talks About. But I put up my very first movie review website in the late 90s. I believe it was 1998. It was a members.aol.com website, maybe even 97. And the first iteration of it was a single page, and it dealt with essentially me saying that I knew that there were deleted scenes from the original Star Wars trilogy. That was it. Like, it didn't say anything about them. I had one still frame that was the background. It had my name on it. That was my webpage. And then like a year after that, I put a second one on members.aol.com. There was a Jackie Chan fan webpage where I had movie reviews that were terrible. Like, if you think that your stuff on Letterboxd is bad, or maybe you don't know that it's not the best. Mine actually was the worst. It was just terrible. And then I had like a picture of Jackie Chan's body because he's known for doing his own stunts and he would hurt himself. So this is a picture where you could click on his body parts and discover in which movie he'd injured himself for specific stunts. And so it was cute. It was a cute little website. And after running it for like a year and a half, I'd gotten up to 999 views, that of which I believe 990 of those were me, and 8 of them were my mom checking it out because I told her to. I mean, it never went anywhere, but it was something I put a lot of time into and learned about HTML and how to do all these frames and stuff like that. And then throughout the zeros, I was on all kinds of different forums talking about movies. I was just always the guy that wanted to talk about movies and create stuff. And had a number of blogs that I started, not even all movie blogs. I did have one in there called The Non-Essentials that I ran for just a little bit. But I started a number of different kinds of blogs, put a lot of time in it. One of them I put like 7 years into it. And I have a sister that's been successful with blogging and makes money doing that every month and has been, I believe, for over 10 years now. And I got tips from her on how to try and do things right. And it never went anywhere. I had like couple of posts that went a little viral on Facebook, just a little bit, but it was like one a year did that. And it was with me grinding and writing like hundreds of posts, and I was never consistent, and I never was able to get traction, which is one of the reasons it wasn't consistent, because I just didn't feel like it was going anywhere. Because I for whatever reason, I wasn't finding a way to connect with people and build an audience. Then it was May of 2013, and for the previous couple of years, I'd seen a number of people starting these YouTube channels and reviewing stuff. A lot of the same people probably you watch: Chris Stockman, Jeremy Johns, John Campia, even before it was with Collider. when he was just AMC, even before he was doing AMC Movie Talk. Discovered a bunch of these guys talking about movies on YouTube. And I was a public speaker at the time. That's kind of what I did for a living. So I thought, hey, I could do that. I could be someone that talks about stuff. That's my skill set, is talking for long periods of time about things. And I love movies and I have a lot of knowledge. I would love to do that. So in May of 2013, I put out a couple of videos. I think there was like Arrow Season 1 review, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Now You See Me. And the videos are actually still up on my channel. Just shooting on my webcam on my old computer, horrible, backlit. And I had fun with them, but I was just too busy and I didn't stick with it. And 6 months later, I believe like Gotham debuted or something like that. Something happened 6 months later, and I put out a couple of videos talking about those shows, and then I quit. And then 6 months later, I put out a couple more videos and I quit. And I did that for about 3 years. That every 6 months, I'd start back up, put some videos up, and I could never stick with it. I could never grow an audience, and I never did it right. And then we get to 2016. I was at a kind of a low point in my life. I was unemployed, kind of all based around things that I'd done. My choices had led me to this point in time. And get there and just kind of real down on myself. Went to go see Ghostbusters 2016 with my wife for a date night, and went the next day like, hey, I've got that dormant YouTube channel. What if I posted something on that? So then I decided to just do that on a whim. I didn't even think about it. And little did I know that was going to change the trajectory of my life. And I kind of dug it, didn't have anything else to do. So put out a couple of reviews over the next couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks in, Star Trek Beyond came out, and I put out a ranking of the Star Trek movies because I love Star Trek. So it was my very first video ranking I ever did. Once again, something I had no idea was going to change the trajectory of my life. That would be something that would be known for on the internet. If you're not familiar with my channel, that's kind of what my thing is ranking videos. So I put out this video and actually got several thousand views. And I'd been doing blogging for like 8 years or something like that. And I'd only had a handful that had ever gotten this many views. And then I'm do YouTube for 2 weeks and stick with it kind of a little bit. And I have a video that takes off. And I was like, I kind of like this YouTube thing. It's kind of working for me. So maybe I had just enough luck at the beginning phases of Sean Chandler Talks About. And that July 2016 video is the first one under the name Sean Chandler Talks About. Previously, it was like the non-essentials, and then I didn't really have a name. July 2016 went with Sean Chandler Talks About. So I stuck with it, and I enjoyed it, and kind of had a pretty nice pace to my growing. Nothing amazing at first, but adding like 3 subscribers per day, which is pretty quick for when you're first starting out. And went into 2017, and my wife kind of told me that I asked if I had permission to like make it a bit of a priority, to put time into it. She's like, yeah, you can do that. Like, you seem to really, really dig this. Jump forward to right before the summer, April of 2017. I was 9 months in, and I hit my first 1,000 subscribers, which I thought was awesome. Under a year, 1,000 people care about what I'm doing. That same month, I made $11. I'd put out like 30 videos and made $11. Excuse me, I started a Patreon account the month before, and my mom donated $10 to my Patreon account. So with my adult allowance, I made $21 in the month of April 2017. And because I was underemployed, I was delivering paint for a living, just wasn't using any of my education or my resume. So I was strongly considering quitting YouTube in summer of 2017 because I just had to. I just had to get a different job. Right around that same time, though, I just decided to kind of look into my numbers and see what videos were kind of connecting with people a little bit better. So I looked backwards, and I realized that if I put out a movie review, it gets like 100 views. If I rank the franchise associated with the movie, it gets 400 views. Now, I'm no math whiz, not particularly smart, failed a number of math classes in my day, but I do know that 400 is more than 100. And so I went, what if every weekend this summer, whatever the new big franchise is, I put out a ranking associated with that franchise. Every Saturday I'll do the new ranking. So it was like Alien, Pirates of the Caribbean, Transformers, of course, there's a couple of Marvel movies, a DC movie or whatever. And so I did that. And suddenly, where it took me 9 months to get my first 1,000, I got my second 1,000 in just 3 months. So this is pretty cool. What if I did 2 of these per week? The new release as well as a classic one. So I did that. And once again, it just kind of continued this ball of growth. And all of this led to that fall when Thor Ragnarok came out. And I looked at my content and I went, my rankings were all like 40 minutes long. I would never watch one of these. And this is going to be important for later on. I would never watch one of these. So maybe I should shorten these. Like, what's the video I would make? Or excuse me, what's the video that I would watch? What would I actually click on, stick around, watch it, and enjoy it? Would be about 10 minutes. That's what I have time for. So I changed my formula and shortened it, and that meant I could put more time into the editing, put out this video, and for the first time ever, this video got hundreds of thousands of views. Up to that point in time, my most viewed video was like 22,000. And this one got to a point in time where I was getting like 22,000 views per day. It was just took off. It was crazy. It kind of blew my mind what happened with it. And at that point in time, I'd been interviewing for a new job. And it was going well. It was like a job that would have been really good for my resume career if I went back to what I did before, which is church world. And then I went, I don't think that's the right direction. I think this YouTube thing, I'm going to try and make this work, and pursued it. And then over the next few months, a bunch of cool stuff happened where I got my first sponsorship. And then I came home one day and my wife was like, hey, I got laid off from my job, sort of. And I was like, oh no, this is terrible. I just turned down a job interview. She goes, but I got offered a promotion at this other thing. Like, oh, okay. You phrased that like it was a bad thing. It turned out to be pretty great. And then February of 2018 rolled around, and this is where it gets a little bit sad to discuss this at point in time, but Black Panther came out. And I see I can read, I actually had to turn the comments off because you were talking too much about Chadwick Boseman and Black Panther. And it was kind of making me sad for all the obvious reasons. But that unfortunately, I can't really discuss that too much right now because that's not what this live stream is about. I'll discuss it on tomorrow. I'll be on this same film festival doing an extra podcast, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow. But Black Panther came out, and in the comments, someone had recommended that I put out a ranking of the MCU villains. Well, okay, let me give that a try. And so after Black Panther came out, I put out that ranking, and it did really well the first couple of days. And so I was like, what if I ranked the heroes too? And did that 1-2 punch. And here we are 2.5 years later, and to this day, those two videos are the two most viewed videos on my channel. They were put out a couple days apart from one another, and they just exploded. One of them is just shy of 1 million views. It's over 950,000 views, which is crazy that many people have watched something that I created. And I realized in that the power of creating a series and what that can do. And so then I just kind of tried to adjust, and I took that principle, and that's kind of driven my content strategy ever since then. And as you can imagine, that like legitimately the release of the movie Black Panther changed my career trajectory because it's so was so successful for my channel. And, that's of course a very selfish interpretation or way to process through the death of someone. But so I don't mean to be crass about but that unfortunately that ties so much into my actual story of the content of this panel. And I wish I could reflect a little bit more on Chadwick Boseman, the person, but I can't do that right now. So that's the quick version of my channel of how I grew and what those markers were when things really took off and exploded. And that's really important as I kind of go into how do you do that same thing. There's these markers in my story that you have to know to understand where all of this is headed and where it's going. And the cool thing about just kind of what I guess one kind of bookend before I kind of move on to the outline of these different elements. Since all that happened, since my story, since the last year and a half, since I've gone full time, I've become accepted as a Rotten Tomatoes certified critic, which is pretty cool because just yesterday, I posted my review of New Mutants and my little blurb on Rotten Tomatoes, and then Screen Rant did an article about the first reviews for it, and I was quoted in Screen Rant, which is just kind of weird. Still to this day, even though I've got some fame and an audience on my own, it's still kind of cool to have those kind of moments take place where these websites that I've been watching or aware for a long period of time quoting me. But I've done interviews. A year ago, this past week, I interviewed the director of Angel Has Fallen, the Gerard Butler franchise. I got to sit down with him, and he's like the guy who used to be Mel Gibson's stunt double. Sam Hargrove, the director of Extraction, a movie they did a watch party for in this film festival yesterday. And he was also Chris Evans' stunt double. I got to interview him. He's a real cool guy, real friendly. And he's actually very open to coming back on the channel to do more stuff. So I need to take him up on that. But all of that came about because of the strategies that I implemented with my channel to try and grow an audience and create great content. So I'm just going to walk you through what that is. So if you're taking notes, I'm trying to figure out, how do you make desirable content? How do you make content that connects with people? Your number one goal. The most important thing you can do if you want to make desirable content on YouTube and grow a channel and grow an audience and get more views, whatever that is, whatever you measure all of that, number one thing you can do is add value. And that doesn't sound like the most interesting way to, like, if you're looking for me to tell you some secret hack for YouTube, there's not a hack. You have to add value. You have to do something that people see as valuable because they are trading their time to consume your content. And if you want people to stay on your channel, you have to earn their time. Kind of three ways that you can earn their time, 3 ways you can add value. You can be entertaining. You can think through some of the channels that you watch. My family watches Dude Perfect all the time. It's just these guys entertaining you, whether through their trick shots, their crazy antics where, now because they're famous enough that they can do stuff like where they're on a battleship doing stunts and things like that. They were on Shark Week. So their antics, they're just their personalities. They have a show called Overtime. They're entertaining. So how do you add value to get people to stay on your videos and want to consume your content? Be as entertaining as you can be. Second thing you can do, you can inform people. There's all kind of how-to videos out there that, my lawnmower breaks down from time to time. I'm not a mechanic at all, but I'll go on YouTube and I'll pretend that I'm a mechanic and I'll look up how to fix and then Toro, lawnmower. And they'll have some guy, he is not entertaining at all, but he knows how lawnmowers work. So he's adding value, not by making me laugh or entertaining me. He's not even good production value. It's just terrible. It's like a guy with his cell phone sitting on a table, but he knows how a lawnmower works. So he just walks you through and shows you real quick. He's a clear teacher and shows you exactly what you need to do. So you can inform people. Or like for me, actually, it's a lot more looking up videos on how to do stuff in Photoshop and Premiere, because I've never taken any courses on anything. I'm totally self-taught when it comes to all social media, everything that I do for a living. So it can just inform you on how to do something you care about. It's not entertaining at all. Production might be bad, but it informs you. Third one is providing insight. I'm in the world of movie reviews. I imagine if you're watching this, wanting to learn how to have a movie channel, you're probably interested in having like a movie channel, a nerdy channel, something in the ballpark of mine. You're probably not thinking like a skit channel, just because inherently if you're connected, want my thoughts on how to grow a YouTube channel, it's probably a similar type of YouTube channel. And people message me daily saying they want my tips on how to grow a YouTube channel. But then it's insight. You want to have a personality that connects with people. You want to have a personality that's charismatic, but then you really have to have insight. I see so many movie channels on YouTube that don't have anything real to say. They're giving opinion without insight. There's a famous quote from the show The Office. Oh, of course, there's 1,000 famous quotes from The Office. But in one of the episodes, a guy named Andy Bernard, who's kind of like a clueless guy in the office, and he talks about wanting to be an art critic. And so he goes, I could be an art critic. This art is good. This painting is bad. I can do that. The joke is that he thinks he could be an art critic because he can say good or bad without realizing that what makes the value of an art critic or a film critic or a music critic is the ability to have insight. So the number one goal, if you have a YouTube channel and you want it to grow and you want to build an audience, is that you have to add value. You have to have something there that is worth the viewer's time. They're trading their time to consume your content. I heard a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, who's kind of a famous social media entrepreneur. And one of the things he's famous for saying is that there's a lot of selfish creators out there, that they like the idea of being a creator. They like the idea of having an audience. I do too. But they're not thinking about, I want to create content for an audience. They're not thinking about the fact that they have to do it for people. It's all about them. What do they get out of it? What do they talk about? Do they enjoy it? So the key idea is you can't be thinking about yourself and what you get out of it. You can't just be thinking, do I get views? Do I get more subscribers? You have to be thinking, how do I add value? That is at the core of all of this, is that you have to add value to the viewer. 3 ways to do it. You can entertain them. You can inform them, like with a how-to video, or you can give insight. Whatever you're doing, you can provide some new way of seeing things. You can have like for me, I try to have a vocabulary that most people don't have in terms of films, so I can describe what they're feeling or why they're feeling it about a movie in terms of story and stuff like that. And then moving along in the same idea of adding value, there's 2 elements to that. First off, if you want your channel to grow, you have to have perceived value. And what I mean by that is you have to get people to click. And that comes down to your thumbnail. You have to have perceived value to get someone to click. If your thumbnail itself looks junky and unprofessional, the first perception that people will have of your channel is that you don't add value because you're just not very professional. Perceived professionalism is huge on YouTube because it's required to get people to click on your videos in the first place. So one of the things that's so important is to create thumbnails and titles that are actually enticing to people and communicate that there's value on the inside, because it's quality on the outside. You want an outside exterior that looks like it has quality, so that gives people the perception that there's value and quality on the inside. Second one is you have to get them to stick around by having actual entertainment, insight, or information on the inside. Key thing, if you want your channel to grow, you have to get them to click title and thumbnail and stick around, actually adding value in trading their time for value that you offer to them. Next category that we need to talk about in regards to this. If you want your channel to grow, if you want to create desirable content, you have to pick a niche. You have to have a thing that you are about. And the more specific, the better. A lot of people kind of go into creating content and they go, oh, PewDiePie, you know, he does like video game videos and he comments on culture. Sometimes he'll talk about movies. He does lots of stuff. I want to be kind of like PewDiePie. You know, you can't do that. You don't start like this. PewDiePie didn't start like that. He started as a gaming channel and turned into this person that had a variety of stuff because his personality was so powerful that he grew a channel and could do more stuff. And then the value added, the niche was PewDiePie himself. You can't do that when you're starting. You have to create a scenario where someone goes to your channel and they click on it, they look at your videos and they immediately feel like they found a channel that covers stuff that they like. It feels right for them. So when I say niche, like your topic, your focus. And movies is too broad. You really want to kind of funnel it down to have something that you're really known for. In the case of my channel, my language is I talk movies too much, but I don't really talk about all movies. And I don't really focus in on covering everything movies. When you really niche it down, I'm known for doing numbered lists, rankings, and I'm known for big blockbuster franchises because I rank franchises. That's really what I'm known for. I cover some stuff outside of that, but it's kind of off subject. And sometimes people will be like, hey, can you do your top 10 favorite silent movies? I mean, I could do that, but it would be off brand because that's not really what I talk about. That's not really what the audience that I've grown, and what you win them with is what you win them to. How did I get most of my subscribers? Marvel rankings. That's it. Marvel rankings, Star Wars rankings, Pixar rankings, stuff like that is how I got the majority of my subscribers. It's big, broad appeal franchises and talking about them in a single bite-sized video. That's really what my channel is about. Much more specific than movies in general. And if you watch one of my videos at the beginning, I'll show these trailers. What is it from? I'm not showing trying to impress you with my obscure knowledge of early 1990s Hong Kong action movies. I've seen a lot of them. I have a pretty good knowledge of early 1990s Hong Kong action movies, but that's not really what my channel is about. I'll touch on that just a little bit and find places to talk about things that I love. But my channel is much more so about big franchises, numbered lists, things like that. And that's what I'm known for. That's what people subscribe for. And when I cover that material, I get a lot more views. This, especially like right now, this past week where they had DC Fandom, where we had all these trailers drop, and then we finally have New Mutants comes out. This week's been crazy good for my channel, as opposed to the previous 5 months where new movies didn't come out, and so there wasn't something to fuel that engine. But like right now, while these types of pieces of news and movies are coming out, it's just red hot for my channel, because that's my niche. That's what my channel is about. That's what people subscribe for, and that's what I'm able to deliver content for right now. So that's, you have to have a niche. Like, what is the broad category? Movies, games, and then funnel it down a little bit to something more specific inside of that. Like, I love indie films. I love A24. I love horror films. I love animation. And you find that thing that you're known for. Like, I'm known as the ranking guy. Like, I'll go on people's podcasts. I've never called myself that as like intentionally. That's never been language I've tried to use to self-describe. I'll go on people's podcasts. They're always like, hey, so you're the ranking guy. And I don't really like being funneled into this little hole, but that's a good thing. I'm known for something. If you're just movies, you're probably not known for that. There's very few people that can just do that. So what specifically are you known for? And especially if you want to be a movie channel, I'll tell you right now, it's almost impossible to make it just as a movie reviewer. You have to have something more specific than that. Jeremy Johns did it. Stuckman did it. And then everyone else has some sort of angle beyond that. Or at least some for other people that started 10 years ago have been able to do that. But it just, you have to find something more specific, something that makes you stand out. Next category we're going to talk about on here is you have to identify your audience. You have to identify your audience. And what I mean by this is, once again, you're creating content for people. You want to add value to people. So the more that you can think, I'm creating content for this person, the more you can come up with ideas that they will want, and the more that you can design the video in a way that will resonate with them. If you're just kind of like, I just want to talk about these things, and you're not even thinking about who the audience member is, it changes kind of how you do things. Like for me, like, I know that I have a global audience. Therefore, there is no value in me using extra large words, being verbose, trying to impress you with my how extensive my vocabulary is. There's no reason for me to do that, because 50% of my audience is not from the United States, and they won't understand certain, like I think a third of them do not speak English as their first language, and then a very large percentage of them are also in middle school. So it just doesn't make any sense to try and do that. I don't win any points by doing that. So that's the sort of thing that you need to think about. Who is your audience? What do they value? What are they interested in? What illustrations work for them? You have to think through those types of things. Like even like for my channel, I have a lot of very young audience, teenagers, and kind of family audiences. In general, I'm not like a crass person. I didn't actually set out specifically to be a family oriented, but because that's the way things have turned, certain movies, certain things don't make a lot of sense for me to cover. And I don't cover them the way that I would if I was talking to someone my own age, because I know little kids are watching. So you have to think who the audience is. What do they want? What does that audience want? And design the content for that person. And going back to something I mentioned before, when I was originally doing my rankings, I wasn't really thinking about the audience. I was just like sitting down, like, what's easy for me to do? I'll just sit down and talk for 40 minutes and post it. Very little B-roll, very little anything like that. And then right before Thor Ragnarok came out, and I was doing my ranking of the MCU movies, or excuse me, right after Thor Ragnarok came out, I was doing my ranking of the MCU movies. I thought to myself, okay, if I was an audience member, this is just too long. This is too long. What would I actually watch? What would make sense for me to consume? It would be 10 minutes long. Well, I got to change this. I got to change my formula. And thinking like that, what content would you actually consume? What would your prime audience member think? Who are they? How old are they? What do they love? What videos do they want to exist? Who is that person? Know your perfect audience member. And along those same lines, the way YouTube works, the algorithm and everything, is that basically if someone watches your channel and your content and they binge 3 videos, YouTube then basically goes through your archive of content, and their videos, their viewing history, overlaps the two and just starts recommending your videos to them based off their watch history. And then it gets more information. It starts trying to figure out, guess who your perfect audience member is and recommend your videos to people that based off their viewing history would like your content. Well, here's the deal. If you don't know who your target audience member is, how will YouTube know? If you're not niching down so it makes it real clear the type of person that should be watching your content, how will YouTube figure it out? The more specific you are, the tighter you make your content, and the more that it goes together for a specific person, the easier it is for YouTube to start recommending your content to other people that might like your videos. Third one on here, we talked about this a little bit before, but I'll elaborate on it, is that you have to have unique value. You have to have unique value. It's all about adding value, but here's the thing. What unique value do you specifically add to the space that you're joining in on? So when I talk about all of this, as I mentioned before, if you just want to be a movie reviewer, like my channel does not grow from movie reviews. My movie reviews do not get very many views. Even like recently, some people have been like, hey man, why do you post a lot of these movie reviews you're doing over on Patreon, not on your main channel, or they're on Instagram. Why don't you post them on your main channel? It's because no one would watch them. They would get 5% of my subscribers, maybe 3% of my subscribers would watch them. That means 97% would skip out on the video. And that means at a certain point in time, you're annoying people when you just post videos that they're not interested in. You lose subscribers. And I check my analytics, and like I can watch it. If I just post too many kind of random movie reviews for like the smaller VOD stuff, I lose subscribers because that's not what people subscribe for. They subscribed for big franchises, numbered list rankings. And when I talk about the big franchise movies, there's some exceptions, of course. And I like to talk about movies, so I'm going to talk about things beyond just the most practical thing to grow my channel. But movie reviews in general do not grow my channel. My weakest performing video of the last like 20 videos I've done, last 20 videos was my Unhinged review last week. The first kind of wide release movie in theaters with Russell Crowe in it. I reviewed it. Weakest video of my last 20 videos. And then another one that's like bottom 3 of my last 20 videos. My review my last 20 or so videos, one of my weakest performers is my Bill and Ted review from yesterday. Bill and Ted, it's a franchise movie I've watched my whole life, and it's one of my weakest performing videos of the last 20. That might be a little bit distorted because of DC fandom last week, but it's not performing nearly as strong as all this other content that I'm doing. And I'll have people be like, hey, Sean, why are you doing that? Like so many videos related to DC fandom, because that's my core content where I can add value to my audience. And it's just me teeing off like when I do that. And then I do movie reviews and it doesn't connect. Why? Because it's not unique. It's not unique. Go and search for movie reviews for Unhinged, Bill and Ted, any movie. You just find so much competition. And growing on YouTube is all about supplying for something where there's demand, but there's limited supply. Simple. It's as simple as that. And there's no shortage of supply of movie reviews. The demand does not meet the supply, so it's very difficult to grow based off just doing movie reviews. I like to review movies. That's why I do them. I'm not looking to stop doing them, but it's not growth content for my channel. So you have to find that way to have unique value. If you want to talk about movies, where can you bring something different to the table? Whether that's being more entertaining, having a unique insight on it. Like you can see a bunch of these channels that just kind of take off and grow because they analyze movies through their political perspective, and it's controversial and a ton of people hate them and disagree with everything they say, but they just take modern politics and they review new released movies and movie news through the grid of their political lens, and it's a different perspective. It's not just movie reviews, it's this political movie review. It's just something interesting to bring to the table. Or like on Corridor Crew, a channel that kind of VFX guys, over a year ago, they started a series where as VFX artists, they react to special effects in movies. So they're describing what we're seeing in the special effects. Why do these ones look good and why do these ones look bad? They're giving you a vocabulary. They're giving you insight, education, and they're entertaining. And so it kind of hits all of the value adds. But it's a unique perspective. It's VFX artists talking about all these effects that we've seen and go, That looks awesome, but why does it look awesome? And since they've added to that, stuntmen react and then animators react, where they just bring in the professionals of these careers and they give their unique perspective on this content that me and you consume all of the time. So what's your unique value? What do you add that other people are not adding? What's that perspective that you can bring? How can you tackle the subject in an all new manner? How can you take something that's working in blogs and make it work on YouTube? That's one of the things that I did. I didn't invent the idea of ranking franchises, not by a long shot. I saw all these kind of blogs doing that. Collider would do it from time to time, but it always felt like a corporation doing it, even though it was a specific author did it. But because it's under the Collider banner and there's not like that person's face slapped all over it, it just kind of was like a list that felt a little bit impersonal. Or Looper, Watch Mojo, and these websites that would do these lists and things like that were engaging and held your attention. But it felt like a corporation wrote it. It didn't feel personal. But I loved connecting with, I like the idea of those videos, but I love the personal side to Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckman. And I just went, okay, what if I just made a very personal version of these and I did it every week? Like, I'll take what I like about these individual reviewers with these types of lists that I know I keep reading them. And I know they're going to make me mad, but I read them anyway, because it's just interesting to see different people's takes on a franchise that you love. So I did that. And I just combined two ideas. So how can you do that? How can you kind of merge two ideas together and find something that works? Next category that you got to look at here is you just need great ideas for videos. And it seems obvious, but you think about how many people they're just copying what they see their favorite YouTubers doing. And I'm successful enough that I see people doing this to my channels, that they have and I don't mind at all. I really don't. And I've taken ideas from other channels too. But you see people that they're not coming up with their unique ideas, though. It's perfectly fine if you take one of my ideas from time to time, or some Jeremy Johns' ideas. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be able to come up with your own unique ideas. If all you ever are is a second-rate version of Jeremy Johns, if all you ever are is a knockoff of me or John Flickinger or pitch meetings or whatever it is, then you'll never have your own identity. You'll always be seen as generic brand someone else, and you're almost certainly not as good as the people that got there first. So you have to find a way to come up with your own great ideas and have some, once again, new angle where you add value, where you're not just doing what everyone else is doing. As long as you do that, as long as you're just copying my ideas, then you're competing with me, and you probably can't compete with me. As long as you're just stealing Chris Stuckman's model and his ideas, you're competing with him. It's never going to work. You have to find a way to come up with your own great ideas that add value. One way to think about how to do this is that you want to think about, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you actually want to do? Because I'm not encouraging you to create content that you're not actually excited about. So what are you excited about? What are you talented at? That's the tough one, because we want to think we're talented at a lot of things. Maybe you're not talented at the thing you want to be good at, which is unfortunate. Sometimes that happens a lot. But what are you passionate about? What are you good at? And then the third one, what do other people think what are other people interested in that you're doing? Where's their demand? So passion, talent, and the demand. What do people actually click on? And to discover this on a channel, I don't think this happens overnight. You'll know what you're passionate about. You won't know what you're good at until you start doing it. You certainly won't know what people have demand for until you start doing all that. Like with my channel, there's about 30 different directions it could have gone with my niche. It could have been, like, I'm into all sorts of old action movies, martial arts movies, and stuff like that. It happened to work out that these rankings related to big franchises is where I got traction. And for whatever reason, that's the thing that people think I'm best at. The thing where I have that a better than average ability to talk about franchises in a way that people like to click on it. But I discovered that. I didn't know that until I created a lot of content. And I went, okay, I enjoy doing this. I seem to be good at it. People are definitely clicking on it. So let's do a lot more of that. So if you're trying to grow a YouTube channel, look at your content. What did you enjoy doing? What are people clicking on? And how can you generate more ideas based off of that? What can you extrapolate from that and learn from it and analyze it and to come up with more and more great ideas. And that's something that I do every 3 months, every 6 months. I'll go back and I'll literally look at my last 50 videos and YouTube analytics. YouTube's owned by Google. It's just as creepy as you think, and it tells you everything. And watch time, what parts did they watch, who watched it, everything. So you just go into that list and see your top 50 most viewed videos, and you can do it based off of all kinds of metrics. You can go to your analytics and do this. Which one got the most views? Which one's added the most subscribers? Which one's got the most watch time? Which one's had the highest click-through rate? That's the percentage of people that click on it when it's recommended to them. And you can go through that and just discover this is the content that people connected with. They clicked on the most and learn so much information. And you can look at that through the grid of what subjects did I talk about and what styles. Make 2 different lists. What topics are my hit topics and what styles of videos are my hit videos. And then you can start cross-referencing those 2 lists to start just generating ideas that are pretty safe bets that they'll be successful. That is exactly what I did in March of this year. Something like March 8th, March 15th. I don't know. It's been the longest year ever. There was a day where the world kind of collapsed and every movie was delayed. And it was like, wait, we are not getting any new movies for months. I make a big plan for my whole year. I had this whole plan for my year of what I was going to do for content. And I literally made a video that day of me, like it said, like Sean Chandler talks about 2020 plan. I tore it up, threw it up in the air. And then the caption on it was, looks like I got to apply for a job at McDonald's. People were like, don't quit YouTube. I was like, no, it's a joke. It's a joke. I'm making light of a really serious situation. But what did I do? I went into my analytics and I looked at what videos got the most views of the last 6 months, what got the most subscribers of the last 6 months, most watch time of the last 6 months, most click through. The topics, the styles, 2 lists, and just started cross-referencing, brainstorming. I went into my comments and I just looked for what rankings had people been recommending. And I literally made a list of 120 potential videos that I could do. And almost all of them would do decent. None of them were like total flops. I mean, all of these ideas I brainstormed, I think the one that was the biggest flop only got like 7,000 views. So 7,000 people were interested enough in this idea. So that was the weakest of the ideas that I came up with in this batch. And then I just did all these experiments, and some of them worked better than others. And so I doubled down. And so then I did like 3 or 4 videos on audience versus critics, because that was a big hit that worked really well for me. And so I doubled down on that. Other things, the one that only got the 7,000 views, it was a Rocky training montage video. There's a passion project. I was interested in it, but it wasn't as much demand. So I held back on doing kind of more Rocky stuff like that. Was a little bit more niche and not necessarily on brand. That's what you got to do. You got to come up with great ideas. You have to have a system for generating ideas that really connect with people. All right. So I'm talking, I think we have about 7 more minutes. If you guys have some comments, you want to throw some comments in there, I'll do my best to answer some questions real quick. Elaborate on anything that you want me to. All right. Luke Irvin. I can't put these up on the screen because this isn't on my channel, so I don't have, can't put them up on the screen. It's confusing. Luke Irvin says, and this is talking to someone else. He said, do you write scripts or have you tried that? I see what you guys are doing. You guys are actually helping each other. That's cool. Oh, that's very cool that you're doing that. You didn't actually ask me this question, so I'll answer it anyway. But for me, I do kind of every model. My next video that's going to come out, it's an X-Men ranked. It was pretty close to scripted because, oh, someone's paying attention there. So they can throw it up on the screen for me. Thank you. So for me, I normally don't script them unless it's a video that I really want to be really sharp and I want to say really good stuff. And it's, I know, going to be a long-standing video. So these big franchises tend to be my most important content. So I'll try and write my best stuff for them. Most of them, I literally just have a list in front of me with a couple sentences, bullet points. And then I know I want to talk for about a minute about that subject. So I'll have 6 little words that I try and remember in my head. Talk about this subject for 10 seconds. And that's what I go with. This talk we did right here, I hand wrote it right there. That's all the notes that I had for this. And so this was all kind of off the cuff. The more videos you do, the better you'll get at being able to to do all of this. I was a public speaker for 10 years before I started my YouTube channel. And then I've created like 1,500 videos now. So my ability to do this is going to be very different from when you're starting. It's pretty awkward when you start. So right above this, I believe this is the person that Luke was responding to, Zane TV. Zane TV said, how did you learn to be so articulate? I just want to, I try to start a channel, but I have such a hard time translating thoughts into sentences. So as I mentioned before, I, as a public speaker, I come from church world. And so I had a lot of background of doing that. Here's the hard truth, though. Here's the reality of all of this. The reason that I went into that is because I was naturally gifted at it. We're not all equally gifted at all of these different things. And so I think there's a side to it of knowing your strengths, stretching yourself, trying to improve, and also learning what you are and aren't good at and adjusting. Like there's people that just kill it with video essays. They never appear on screen. They're not a talking head. And they just kill it with these video essays. And even some channels that I love. Like I know like some people have video essays that are just so informative that they work. Other ones, they have great personalities while being a video essay. So maybe that's your direction, is that you do a video essay and you can write something entertaining, personality, whatever it is, doing that. But you're really reading it. You're reading an essay that you wrote. I've done a couple of those over the course of my channel, but like literally under 5, I believe. And my skill, because I come from working on a stage, I move my hands. Like even if I'm reading and I've got the mic right here, I start punching the microphone because I can't. If I'm talking, I just get into it, and I don't want to read. Like I want to talk and share my thoughts. And as I'm doing it, I want to like riff off what I get excited about. So I think it's a lot of practice. When you're starting, like for me, the act of writing it is an act of memorization to me. That helps me memorize things a lot. And so the more notes I wrote, the easier it is for me to kind of to really speak off the cuff and have meaningful things to say. Though also at the same time, if I script it, then I want to say it perfect. And so then I also do a bunch of takes. And so it has its problems itself. So I think it's a lot of at-bats is what it takes. There's no simple answer, but script it more. No, I screw up a lot. Like I do post a lot of blooper videos. I screw up all the time. The video I'm going to post tomorrow, it took me over an hour to film it. I think it'll be 20 minutes. And so there's 40, 45, 50 minutes of me screwing up to get 20 minutes of good stuff. Okay, Dr. Manhattan. Wow, Dr. Manhattan, if you exist at all points in time, you already know my answer to this one. So it's a Watchmen reference if you don't know the Dr. Manhattan is from Watchmen. Do you have any tips on filming, like literally filming videos, like how you make them flow, lighting, and everything? Okay, I'll give you my quick lighting tutorial. You normally want 3-point lighting. You want a light here, a light here, and a light here. When I started out, I went to Home Depot and I spent $10 and I bought those little clamp lights for your garage. Bought 3 of them. So you can just clamp it on the corner of a desk in front of you. You can pull 2 chairs and clamp them right here and then clamp it right on your light in front of you and get daylight bulbs. Daylight bulbs. When it comes to lighting, some are like cool and that's blue. Some are warm. That's yellow and orange. Daylight bulbs are well-rounded, so they have the light of the sun. So put one here, and one here. What I just described to you is $30. Put them, if you get 100 watt, you put them this far away from you, you are going to be super well lit. When it comes to filming, when I'm recording, the way I edit is that I look for when I'm filming, when I have a good take, I clap at the end of it. So then when I'm editing, I can find my good takes by looking for the spikes on the sound bar, on the audio file of it. You just see a big clap. And so I go, that's the good take. All this 5 minutes right here of me messing up, that's all bad. So I just do that. It makes it real simple and easy for you to be able to find your good stuff and your bad stuff. And then how do you make them flow? I think you just have an outline as you go into it. That's, I think, the key thing of just have an outline and have a template for how you do your videos. If you look at all of my movie reviews, they follow the same exact template. Cold open, bumper video, synopsis in 2 sentences. I give like a paragraph about my experience watching the movie. Be sure to comment down below. What did you think about it? Good, mixed. Sometimes I don't do mixed. bad, call to action. Be sure to comment down below. And hey, I've got a video like this. Check it out right up here. Then I give my final synopsis, which is basically my sentence. That's me trying to think through what my quote will be on Rotten Tomatoes. And then I say my overall score, letter score, recommendation in a word, and then close out in the last 20 seconds. Every movie review is exactly like that. So when I'm watching a movie, I'm sorting it. I'm sorting my review. Like, okay, I kind of like this. I don't like this. This goes in mixed. And so it's sorted. It's organized so people can follow my thoughts. So just have an organized way that you do things. Don't make it scattershot. Don't try and make it up as you go along. Luke Irvin had a question. Best free tools for making thumbnails. I unfortunately, I probably can't be the most helpful on this one because I've always used Photoshop. I've been using the Adobe Suite since 2003. So 17 years, that's really what I've used. The free graphic tool that I use is Adobe Spark. It doesn't have any of the power of Photoshop and trimming things and adding shadows and stuff, but it's real easy to make something that has modern fonts and stuff. And so I've used that for some of my second channels. That's what I use for my social media graphics. My wife does social media for a major corporation called ServPro and kind of a coach for franchises. And that's what she recommends to them to use. So Adobe Spark is the best one that I can recommend. Shashank, with the question, when do you actively begin the process of creating community? I mean, I think you should always be building community. I'll tell you, so Shashank is actually a course that I'm doing right now. It's in a beta version called How to Grow a Nerdy YouTube Channel. The next section is all about this. So you're going to get an hour and 30 minutes of this next week on community building. But the way that I built my channel was out of the gate building community. I got on and I thought the best thing that I can do is meet the other creators, the other people like what I'm doing. How did I grow by 3 subscribers per day during my first 3 months? I met 10 people every day. I went to 10 other people and I would subscribe to their channel. I would comment on their videos and I would mention that I have a channel. I didn't say sub for sub and I didn't just say, great video, check out my channel too. I watched their video. I commented on something they said and I asked a question. And then I also said, hey, by the way, I have a channel too. This is how I met Cody Leach, a great friend of mine. Tyler Tompkins, great friend of mine. Ryan O'Toole, great friend of mine. I just went to other people's videos. I watched them and I commented it. I added value in the comment section and right out of the gate. Now, I still have, most of these people, I still know them, still communicate with them. 4 years later, I met them 4 years ago. We're still good friends because I went to their channel to meet them. So that's one way I built community. But I mean, from the get-go, respond to every single comment you get. And here's the pro tip. Respond to comments with a question early on because it starts a conversation. So if someone says their ranking, you do a ranking and they post their ranking, say, hey, why did you do this? Start a conversation because you get a back and forth, build a relationship with them. I can't do that anymore. I legitimately can't find people that I've responded to because I get so many comments that it's just tough to do. So that's why I try to be very active on other social media where it's easier in my comment section. But when you're starting out, respond to every single comment. There's no excuse not to. And respond with a comment to create a conversation. And from the beginning, I would say build community. And do what you can. Don't get on every social media platform, but get on the one that you can do best. Like Twitter is the easiest one for me to build community with the other movie people. Instagram is the easiest one for me to connect with fans. So that's what it is for me. So if you don't know, my name is Sean Chandler. My channel is Sean Chandler Talks About. I'll tell you this, in the very near future, I'm looking to rebrand a third channel that I have called Real Creators. I don't even know the name of it yet, but I plan to weekly post content on how to start and grow a nerdy YouTube channel and how to grow your brand. This type of content every single week, except, not extemporaneous, like edited videos. So that should be coming a month from now, 6 weeks from now, very soon. And if you enjoyed what I talked about and you're serious about this, I actually launched the beta version of a course that is, it is hours long. The main section's like 10 hours. Plus I'm doing a bunch of interviews. So that's several more hours. It's something that costs money, but it is intensive. It's tells you everything. I go into my analytics. I walk you through it. If you're serious about this, you can check that out. If you go to my community tab and scroll back, it's from about a month ago. The link does still work, even though I'm not promoting anymore because I closed off the beta, but the link does work currently. So if you're interested in that and you're serious about this and want to grow your channel, it's everything I know. There's a private Facebook group where I can answer your questions in more detail. And I do weekly Q&As with them. I'll actually be doing one with them in about an hour. So a couple of other comments on here. Mr. Brightside said, I just want to say you're one of my inspirations for starting my movie channel. More power to you. That's so cool. I love hearing that because I know Stuckman, Johns, Campy, and Flickinger, they inspired me to start. And so it's so cool to be that for other people. Haley Tregarthen, have you seen a rise in followers since the lockdown because people are being more active on social media? Yes and no. I kind of was on a plateau for a little bit since last August, from last September, second half of August until April of this year. I'd been in a rut of doing the same thing over and over again a little bit. And then when I redid my plan, and I mentioned it, I'm not sure if you were here earlier, I talked about how I looked at what were my biggest hits of the last 6 months, the last year, the topic, the style. I created this great plan for what did I think would be the best videos that I could do. And so then in April, May, June, they were like my best months that I'd had in a while. Not by a lot, and they weren't as good as they would have been had Black Widow come out. But they were better than February by a good bit. Like I doubled my February numbers, even though new movies weren't coming out. Because it's a game of ideas, as I kind of mentioned. If you have great ideas, there's still demand for people to consume content about movies, even if new movies aren't coming out. And as you said, people are sitting at home. And so if you can come up with great ideas that people will click on and stick around, then you can still grow even when new movies aren't coming out. So that's what I did in April, May, and June. In July, I was dedicating all my time to this course that I just talked about. That I'll try to remember to put the link down below on this video so you can come back to this video and the link will be on my comment in it. But in July, I wasn't doing that. I was just kind of coasting a little bit again because I was putting so much time into the course. And so then July I didn't get great numbers. But then this month, I enacted the strategy again and it was kind of, numbers went up. So a little bit of everything. So thanks everyone for watching. I'm actually 7 minutes over the time that I said I was supposed to be done because I have to have a transition period. So thanks so much for watching. Hopefully that helped out. If you're interested in that course, I will have the link down below and you can join beta again. I closed it off about a month ago, but I'll open it back up in case someone wants to join. Like I said, it's like 15 hours of me